Hey friend, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, welcome. My name is Wendy and I am with Inspire Ministries, and as always, I am so glad that you have joined me tonight. I want to just sit down with you and have an old-fashioned chat. I know that I feel like I've said that on repeat in several other videos that I have done as of recently, but it's true. Today I have nothing planned, but I just want to sit down and I want to talk to you about something that just happened today. Now, if you are new, you won't know this, but if you are not new, you will know that since the beginning of the year, I have made it my commitment to every time I feel like the Lord has deposited something in me or He has spoken to me about something, that I would simply come down to my office here in my basement and I would hit record on the camera here and I would just begin to share, especially if I had permission to share it. And this afternoon, I feel like the Lord granted me permission to share just some of the things that are on my heart. Today, I want to talk to you about friendship. It's one of those things that I feel like we need to have a conversation about. Again, I have no notes. I have nothing planned. I have no great theological points to make, not a 1, 2, 3, and this is how you become a great friend or how you get a best friend. Nothing like that. But I just want to share with you some of my thoughts concerning friendship. Now, all of this stemmed from a conversation that I was having with one of my dear friends recently. And this friend had posted a post on Facebook, and it was pretty neutral. It wasn't really aimed at anybody in particular. It was just a general question. Now, I'm not going to tell you all that the actual post entailed, but it went along the lines of, why do some friendships not last? Why do they fade away? And when I was talking to her about it, we were discussing how there are just some relationships that just deteriorate over time. And she said, Wendy, I really want to know why. Why is it that certain people leave out of our lives? Why do some of them walk away? Why does it feel like so many people do not value relationships? And to be honest with you, I wish I had the answer. I don't know, because I have found myself asking myself those same questions all my life. I am probably a lot like you, where I have had relationships, friendships in my life that have come and gone. Friendships that have ebbed and flowed, friends that have come and they have been a part of my life for a long time, and then all of a sudden they leave. And sometimes those relationships have been kind of rekindled years later. And that's kind of what I mean by an ebb and flow. We'll be doing really well, and then something will happen where they fade away or I fade away, the relationship crumbles. And maybe it's not anything that one of us has done. Maybe it's just that it is the season of life that we're in. I'm thinking right now of a particular friend that I had years ago when our children were little, because we had kids around the same age. And so our kids used to play together. And when they were little, we had a lot in common, right? Because our kids went to the same school, our kids participated in the same events, our kids were friends, our kids did things together. And then as they got older and kind of formed different relationships themselves, our relationship as the moms of these kids changed as well. And so sometimes we can get in that season where we can, for obvious reasons, see why friendships come and friendships go. And that's not really particularly what my friend was talking about. She was meaning, why is it that there are some people who don't seem to value connection? We talked about COVID and how since COVID, it's been very difficult to maintain friendships. I think COVID taught us something, right? COVID taught us several things. I think COVID for me taught me that I can really be an introvert. Now, most of my life, I have been an extrovert. I have loved the company of other people. I like being in big crowds. I like kind of being the one that is the center stage person, the one that talks, because I can talk a lot. I mean, I have a YouTube channel, so I must like to talk. I love small groups. I like, big events where we rally together as groups. So whether it be friends or family, I prefer that. But I feel like COVID created me, or caused me to be more of an introvert. I didn't see people as much as I had wanted to during COVID. And then you throw into the mix the fact that I moved out of my hometown where I had been for 46 years, and I moved to a completely different area, a completely different state with my husband, where we had no family, no friends, no small group, I had no workplace because I don't work outside of the home, outside of the ministry that I have here in my home. And we didn't have a church home. I mean, there were so many things. I didn't have young kids in school, so I didn't have that connection with the parents of our children. And so I did a lot of things at home, and I became okay with that. I became very okay with simply staying home and opting not to go out. It got so bad that even during COVID, as many of us lived in this season, we didn't even go out to restaurants. And even post-COVID, we didn't go out to restaurants. We found that it was easier and it was more simple for us just to go get food and bring it home, or to eat in our car, to do date nights in the car. We did a couple anniversaries where we actually just ate in our car, and we were fine with that. And so I think for some of us, COVID brought to light the fact that we really could do life on our own in solitude by ourselves, because we got used to doing that. But I think for me, it also brought to light and brought me in a place of awareness that we do need people. And so I was sharing with my friend, I said, when she was asking me this serious question, why do you think that some relationships fade? I was really raw and honest with her. And in my response, I said, I think a lot of it is pride. I think a lot of it is pride, because we enter in often in relationship wanting something from the other person, right? So for instance, those relationships that I had when my daughter was young, those relationships benefited me, because when I was with that mom or that friend, and I don't mean that I wasn't their friend. That's not why I put quotes in the air like that. But when I was with them, it was easier to be with them because our kids played together. So it was of benefit to me. It was an advantage for me to be with other people in that same season of life as me. And there have been many relationships in my life like that. When we first were married, my husband and I were first married 25 years ago. He brought in a set of friends to this marriage, and I brought in a set of friends to this marriage. And we hung out with his friends a lot in those first few years of our marriage. And again, they were my friends, but they weren't necessarily people that I would choose to hang out with. That doesn't mean I didn't love them and I didn't care about them, but it served a purpose because they were friends with my husband. And so the benefit was that when we were all together, we had camaraderie. We had something in common. We could all share stories. I could learn a lot about him from the friendships that he had had growing up his entire life. And so I think there has been this ebb and flow in the relationships that I've seen personally in my life, people who have come and gone, people who have come and stayed, and the ones that have come and stayed are very, very few. And I started thinking about relationships just this afternoon. And when my friend posted this post on Facebook, there was someone who had made a comment in the thread of comments in her particular post who is a friend of mine. Now, it's someone that I am not as close to as I used to be, someone who I used to be very close with, did a lot of things with, but as it would turn out, again, as the ebbs and flows of relationships have been, I have not been that close to her in a number of years. And what I try to do often is I try to purposefully connect with people regularly. So what I mean by this is I will often scroll through my phone in any given week. I'll scroll through my phone and I will look at people's names and then how long it's been since I've talked to them. And a lot of times I will come across someone that it's been a month or two since I've connected, and I will purposefully send a text to them just asking them how they're doing, how their day is, how their week has been, what's been going on in their life, and I will connect that way. And it was very important for me to do this, especially when we moved away, because I didn't want a relationship to fall apart and have it be my fault. So I thought, I am going to do everything I can to keep the connection that I have with people. So if this relationship falls apart, it's not because I didn't try. It's not because I didn't give 100% effort. And I wanted to be able to say that and know that that was true. And the same goes for this relationship. Every, I would say, 2 or 3 months, one of us will reach out to the other. How you doing? We have a lot in common, so we will often share stories about those common things that we share in our life, and that's kind of our connection. And I saw when she had posted a comment on my friend's post, on our mutual friend's post, I saw what she had commented. And I'm going to be real and honest with you right out of the gate. My initial reaction to how she responded was, uh-oh, she's speaking about me. Now, I'm just being real with you. And isn't that how social media sometimes is? My friend would say, well, I kind of thought that she was talking about you and targeting you. And I went, no, we're not going to go there. We're not going to do that. And I told her, I said, I care too much about this individual to allow what I think that she intended in her response. I love her and care about her too much to allow that to be the thing that causes me to be in a place of bitterness. And the only reason that I could think this way, the only reason is because of Jesus. And I immediately began to repent. And I immediately said, God, I want to do better. I don't want to be jealous of someone else. I don't want to be envious of someone else. I don't want to be bitter. I don't want to carry around rage and anger towards someone. I don't want to assume the worst about other people. And I'm just going to be honest with you. I went into my bedroom and I had a conversation with the Lord. And I'm like, I want to be above reproach in this area. I want to love people well. And here's the deal. She could have intended for that comment to be aimed at me. Certainly, she could have. But that's not my business. It's not my business. I have to continue to honor people well because I'm doing it as unto the Lord. And I don't have to embrace certain relationships that have kind of drifted away, but I have to honor Jesus well. And I started to think about, I love people well because of him. I serve others well because of him. And so it doesn't matter if someone is angry with me or upset with me or they're hurt because of something that I did or didn't do, or they're just trying to be mean. I don't have to carry around bitterness and resentment. And I have no business being in a position to think negatively of someone else. I have no business carrying around a retaliatory mindset because I owe Jesus honor and love and respect. I have to love others well because of him. I have an obligation to him. And I have to tell you what I did. I'm just going to be really, again, this is just a real raw and honest conversation that we're having this afternoon. So in that moment when I was feeling this way, I hopped on my phone, and as it would turn out, and I can't even make this up, as it would turn out, I am decorating my home for fall. And I would come into this bin just this afternoon, just after all of this happened, with this comment on Facebook. And I would open up this tub, and in this tub was this sign, and it said harvest on it, and it was a vinyl. The word was in vinyl that said harvest on this piece of glass. And instantly I smiled. Why? Because it was this friend that I'm talking about. It was her who sent me, who made this for me years ago. I spoke at an event called Harvest years ago, like 6 years ago, and she made this for me for that event. And every year that I pull it out and I put it in my kitchen as a decoration for fall, I think of her. And wouldn't you know that the Lord would allow me to open up that tub at just the right time so that I could be reminded of that friendship. And so I got on my phone and I texted her a picture and I said, I'm thinking of you today. And she wrote back, and we had this dialogue back and forth, and it made me feel so good that I reached out. But here's the further lesson in all of this. When I sent it, I remember praying, God, don't let this be just because it's something that I want honor and glory for. Don't let me just be sending this text because it's something that I want you to be proud of me about, because that can be a very dangerous place to be in. I want to be authentic in my response to people. I want to be an authentic lover of people. And I want to do it because I have the fear of God in my life. I want to do it because I want to honor God well. You see, God gives us free choice. He gives us free will to make any decision, to make any choice we want. We can love or we can hate. We can bring peace or we can bring chaos. We can be joy-filled or we can be miserable. You see, He gives us these choices. And I have a choice to love that friend or not. I have a choice to respond a certain way. I can respond thinking, well, that was an edgy post likely aimed right towards me, and I can carry around bitterness and ugly and rage. Or I can serve the Lord and I can love the Lord. And for that, I have no choice. If you are a believer in Christ, you don't have a choice to honor the Lord with your life. If you belong to Jesus, if you are surrendered to Him, you are under an obligation to live your life as unto the Lord. That means doing everything as though you were doing it to the Lord. That means every time I deal with a cashier, every time I am on the phone with customer service somewhere, every time I'm in a conversation with my husband, every time I'm disciplining my children, all of these conversations in all of these areas, I have a responsibility to do them all as unto the Lord. I live with no options. I told this to a friend recently. I have to live as a follower in Jesus. I have to live with no options, because if I give myself an option to love or to not, to hate or to love, to retaliate or to accept with kindness and goodness and gentleness, I will always choose the worst of the two, because I am human. And in our humanity, we often want to do things for self, things that feel good to our flesh. And retaliating is always going to be the thing that looks better. but it's never the God-honoring way. And so I would tell my friend, this is the hardest work we'll ever do. I believe that. Relationships, it's tricky. And then you throw in their social media, it's just danger. It's just danger. I told my friend just this afternoon, I said, if I felt like the Lord was calling me to get off of social media altogether, I would look back with absolutely no regrets. I would look back, wave it goodbye, and never see it again. But I believe that I have been called, at least in this season of my life, to an online ministry. And so I need to use social media as my platform, as my outlet to get those things out. And I feel like those have been God-honoring so far. But if I ever felt like it wasn't the case, I would have no problem getting rid of social media because it's dangerous. And so I can sit in the safety and the comfort of my home and blast people on social media. I can use my words and I can speak them out into an atmosphere and never be able to ever get them back. And so we have to be careful. And so I wouldn't even engage in a conversation with my friend at great length about this afternoon, because what I told her is this: I'm learning to say more by speaking less. Saying more things that are intentional, more things that are meaningful, more things that are purposeful, and more things that are God-honoring by speaking less. Because not everything demands my opinion. Not everything demands what I would say is my right to freedom of speech. Because as a follower of Christ, I am held to a higher standard. And so I was just thinking about all of this as it relates to relationship today, because I think that there are so many reasons that relationships fade away. Pride, selfishness, arrogance, entitlement, all of these things. And I would say all of these things to my friend this afternoon. All of these things are true. I think it stems from pride. I think we enter into a relationship believing that we can get something out of that friendship or out of that relationship. I think sometimes it starts that way. And maybe it's innocent enough. Maybe there's no cruelty behind it. But it really takes effort, and it really takes selfless love for the longevity of a relationship to stand the course of time. I believe that. And I believe that we have never needed relationship more than we need it right now. And not just because we have something in common with someone. Certainly not because they can do anything for me. I was speaking to you, YouTube world, in a video that I did recently on a marriage series that I'm doing currently, about how the relationship between husband and wife is not what you can do for me. Yes, the husband is to love his wife, and yes, the wife is to respect her husband, but the goal of my marriage isn't so that I can feel loved and so that he can feel respected. The goal of our marriage is to honor and glorify Christ. Because when people are looking at our marriage, they're seeing the greatest picture, the greatest image of Christ and his church, his bride. And so I think the same with relationships, that are we fostering relationships that are God-honoring? That when we are together, we speak of Christ and we bring honor and glory to his name. Those are the kind of relationships that I'm interested in. I've reached a point in my life where I'm no longer interested in relationships simply to have a buddy to go to coffee with. I want real, authentic relationship. I want to have deep conversations with people. I want to love people well. I want to serve people. I want to do well because it's what God's called me to do, but because I love Jesus above all things. And I just began to pray, God, soften my heart towards friends. Soften my heart towards people that you have called me to be in relationship with. Help me to honor people well, but help me not to just do it because I have to. And God forbid me do it because I think I'm getting an attagirl or a pat on the back. I don't need to be celebrated. I need to honor Christ. And I want to be in relationships where we're honoring Christ together. Because I think that that is an image that the world is dying to see. And so I want to encourage you today to love your friends well. Listen, there might be some people in your life who have come and who have gone, and maybe it's for your protection. Maybe God was protecting you from something that he knew would eventually hurt you. Maybe he is protecting you from you hurting them. Maybe it's just a season of life that you are in and that relationship has ended and the door has closed, and it doesn't mean you never love that person again. It doesn't mean that they will never re-enter your life again. It certainly does not give you permission to stop praying for that person, but it's okay. Decide who your core friends are and love them well. Love them well. I have one friend right now who I'm thinking of. When I had surgery several years ago, I remember that she was the only friend who messaged me every single day to ask me how I was doing and if I needed anything. And that's somebody that you want to keep around. Yes, we don't always agree on everything. Yes, she lives on this side of the aisle and I live on this side of the aisle politically. Yes, sometimes we differ in our opinions theologically. But we're friends. At the core of who we are, we're friends. We love Jesus, we serve him, and we love each other well. And I am willing to bet that she would feel the same about me if she were here in this room today and she was talking to you. I want to love people well, and I want to do it because I love him and because I live indebted to the Savior of the universe who loves me, and I've done nothing to deserve his love. I was talking about my grandson the other day, and I told my husband, I said, isn't it amazing? This little boy is birthed, and that's all he did. He just arrived in our home one day, and we just love him like there's no tomorrow. We love him. He's done absolutely nothing to deserve our love. He just exists. And we're crazy, madly, deeply, and passionately in love with him. And that's how Jesus is with you and I. And he deeply, deeply cares about relationship. And we have to decide that we're going to let go of the frivolous stuff. We're going to let go of the hills we've wanted to die on because we were right. And because we knew better, and because you hurt me, and because of this and because of that. Listen, we need to love well. Not because they deserve it, because he does. Not because they have done anything to deserve our love. But can we, at the end of our life, say we gave everything that we could? And as far as it goes with me, I'm living the way that Christ desires that I live. Because I have the fear of God in my life too much. I want to love well. I want to honor him well, and I want to do it. I want to do everything that I am doing in my life as unto the Lord. So these are just a few of my thoughts concerning friendship. It's hard. I know, I get it. It's hard. And loving well, regardless of how well other people love us, it's part of the holy work that we are a part of that will be harder than anything that we've ever done. But it's worth it. It's worth it. So friend, I hope that this has been an encouragement to you today. Maybe I was all over the map. Maybe you didn't follow me at all, but I hope that you got something out of this sit-down chat with me. I appreciate your time today. Know this, that I'm praying for you. I truly mean it when I say that I'm praying for you. Every time I look at the subscriber count, or every time I look at comments, or every time I engage with you at all, I'm praying for you because I know it's hard. I know it's hard, and I know that some of these topics are hard, and I know some of these lessons are difficult because they go against the world and what the world would tell us. The world wants us to be self-absorbed, but the entire gospel is about living selflessly as unto the Lord. It is learning to love like Jesus. It is learning to let go of the ability to retaliate. It's learning to love others well, regardless if we get anything in return. Just loving well. Just loving well because I want to live as Jesus. I want to live as Jesus, and I know that you do too. Friend, I hope that you enjoyed this message. If you liked this message, would you share it with somebody that you know and love? Someone who needs to hear this message, maybe somebody that you are friends with, or maybe someone who once was your friend and you have this little bit of strain in your relationship. Can you get that spark back in your relationship by saying, let's let go of all of the frivolous things that mean absolutely nothing, and let's get back on track, pointing toward Jesus? Can we do that? Can we do that? Would you also hit that notification bell to be notified for every time that I upload content like this one? This was a freebie this week. This was an extra bonus because I really felt compelled to sit down and chat with you this afternoon. I thank you for giving me a little bit of your time today, and I pray that I have said something today to spark in you something that is slowly starting to transform your mind into thinking better and living better. I love you, friend, and until my next video, I pray that you have an awesome day with Jesus. Bye-bye.